How did you find out you were being cheated on? Welcome to the best channel ever. Story 1. The other woman knocked on my front door and asked me to take my kid and leave so the two of them could be together and happy. I told her she could have him, but they'd have to go because I technically owned the house. I then told him he was free to go. Unfortunately, he did not. Sadly, she'd been dropped off by her ex, who she'd cheated on with my now ex-husband. That was quite awkward. The audacity. My guess is he had this other woman believing she was special, that he'd leave his wife for her and they'd be together any day now. Psych. I need to know what happened next though. Story 2. He gave me his phone to hold while he was having a minor medical procedure, and while waiting in the room, a text came through. It said something like, so when can we do the deed again? And I was totally confused. So, I scrolled up through the text read and read, I'm sorry if you feel guilty, and no, I'd feel guilty if I still loved her. And that was the end of the relationship. Story 3. I went on a solo trip to California from New York. My then boyfriend of 5 years was supposed to fly to San Diego when I arrived, then we'd drive home together. I picked him up from the airport, used his phone, and pulled up directions for our restaurant reservation. He gets a notification from a social media app he must have forgotten to delete. I asked him about it, he grabs his phone and deletes the app, says it would hurt me more to read the conversation he'd been having with other women, and that I'm obviously going to dump him either way, so he wanted to save himself the embarrassment of getting exposed. I made him call his mom and arrange his stuff to be moved out of the apartment, told him to find his own way home, and finished the road trip without him. When I got home, it was like he'd never lived there, exactly how I wanted. Story 4. I went to check my email on his computer and his messenger popped up. His ex-girlfriend couldn't wait to finally see him next week, and that long distance has been really awful and she can't wait to reconnect. He told me they broke up. They did not. He didn't tell her about me or that we were living together, so now I was suddenly homeless. She did fly in the next week and gave the ring back. I didn't know they were engaged either. Yay, good times. Story 5. Her roommates called and asked me to meet them for lunch, said it was important. I met them, and they told me that she had been cheating on me with her ex the entire time I was deployed. They showed me pictures. They said that I was a good man and I didn't deserve to be treated like that. They had collected my things that morning when she left for work and gave them to me. I drove to her work, walked up to her, showed her the pictures, and demanded the ring back. She gave it to me and left. Later, she called me yelling about conspiring with her roommates, basically trying to make it all my fault. She asked what I was doing meeting with them. I said it's called respect and closure, and it sounds like this. I called the phone company and said I needed to change my number and never heard back from her again. I took it really rough, and I'm thankful for her roommates and the friends that got me through probably the darkest time of my life. Story 6. I was putting our kids to bed. We had planned on doing the deed that night. I got lingerie and nice wine and dolled myself up. I came out to the living room to find my husband asleep on the couch with his phone on his chest. He was sending dirty messages with her as I was getting ready to sleep with him. Turns out that person who was just a friend was a full-fledged relationship. Story 7. My girlfriend at the time used my laptop to boast with her friends about cheating on the guy she was cheating on me with. Then she left the browser open and went to work. I sat down to watch movies, and it was the first thing I saw. She spit at me when I told her what happened. She called me a stalker and said I couldn't be trusted. Also, she said she'd need to stay at the house for another month or two until she found a place. On some level, I still admire her conviction. Story 8. He asked me to go unlock his car since he'd locked his keys inside. The friend he told me he was with was nowhere to be found. I checked his phone and found the messages. He wouldn't admit to actually sleeping with her until 2 years later. Then he asked for an open relationship and got upset when I got more dates than him. We've since split, thankfully. Story 9. She told me like this. Her. Where are the leftovers? Me. I ate them. She puts her hand in her face and says, you know what? I hooked up with your friend. We argue and break things off. Dang, she really wanted those leftovers. He ate them, and she tried to come up with an equal slight against him. The jury is still out on which is worse. I need to know what the leftovers were before I make a decision. Story 10. I worked a lot to support my little family. She complained that I worked too much. I came home early to surprise her, but had forgotten my key to the apartment. I called her and said, "Surprise, I'm home." She said, "Really?" I thought that was because she was happy I was home, but realized after the fact that it was because her boyfriend was there. Once I got to the door, I knocked and knocked. I called her, and she wouldn't answer. I was able to peek through a part of the blind and see her helping him climb into the hallway closet. I left and went to drive around. I was in shock. She called me wanting to know where I had gone. She said she had been in the bathroom. I told her I knew, and she didn't confess until the next day. She ended up deciding she was too young to be a wife and mom, and she left us. I was 19 then and instantly became a single parent. Okay, here's how my story goes. We had just finished making love and he turns to me and tells me he's in love with someone else. He had been seeing some girl from work and she had just left her husband, so he decided to get together with her. Yet, I guess he still couldn't tell me until before he had one last romp in the hay. It messed me up pretty bad emotionally for a long time. Story 12. The other woman found out about me. A mutual friend showed her my pictures with a guy and our kids on Facebook. She contacted me to apologize and let me know that she had been told he was single. We met for a drink and compared notes. After she showed me texts and proof that he had been cheating on me for months, we both dumped him and flew off to party together in New Orleans for a few days. We have been besties for over 12 years now. It was the best thing that ever happened to me and introduced me to what ended up being my tribe. I'm sure that first vacation of freedom was unforgettable. This is an amazing story with a happy ending. Subscribe to have good luck until the end of the week. Cheers.